Okay, so John Carpenter's The Thing is one of my favourite films ever made. The movie is the gold standard for practical effects, and on top of this, the film has an extremely well crafted story that still stands the test of time. Laced with paranoia, the movie is meant to leave us constantly second guessing which characters are the thing, and this extends to the ending itself. The movie closes out with Childs and MacReady warming themselves by the blazes of their base before the cold creeps in and finally kills them. For decades, people have questioned whether Childs is a thing or not, and for the first part of the video, I want to discuss why I think that he was. Now this is something I've gone back and forth over throughout the decades, and initially I believed that Childs was one of the good guys. However, there are two very important things that come at the end, and I think this spells it out that Childs is indeed an alien. Now the first of these comes when we catch him watching over the base from the sidelines. Childs is instructed to keep an eye out, and he stands in one of the rooms that leads to the outside. Later on, we see that he's abandoned his post, and we get a look at the room, which now has the door wide open. Now, you might not notice this, but the coats are on completely different hangers to what they were originally on when we first saw Childs in the room. Placing these shots beside each other, we can see they're all laid out in a completely different way. In the movie, we discover that the thing rips through your clothes in order to kill you, and my theory is that the creature ambushed Childs at this point, and then there was a struggle. This caused some of the coats to fall off the pegs, and then in a hurry, the thing grabbed one to wear and then put the others up so it didn't look like there'd been an attack. Childs' coat in this scene is navy blue, and when he comes to meet MacReady at the end, it appears to be a creamy white colour. Now this may be due to the snow, and there has been several people that have argued the coat is blue, we just can't see it. Either way, I think the peg position is a lot more telling, and these coats have been rearranged to spell it out to us what's going on. Now though this may be a continuity error, it's important to bear in mind that the Thing's production schedule was delayed heavily. This was due to weather conditions, and it gave Carpenter months on end to plan out minute details, and this is why the script is so tight. We see Childs go out into the snow, and the lights cut out just a couple of seconds later, hinting at him sabotaging it and then heading out into the snow. Now MacReady meeting Childs, I think, also spells out exactly what's going on with the pair. In the scene, MacReady gives Childs a drink, and he then smirks after the character takes a swig of it. I think this is very telling, and the more I watch it, the more I think this is actually a test. This is because in the movie, we're told that the inhabitants of the camp should prepare their own meals. This is clearly spelling out that they shouldn't share food or drink, because the thing acts like a virus and it could spread through this. There was a follow-up sequel script that was unfortunately scrapped, but it described the thing in more detail, and it said it would create a perfect imitation of someone. Now what I mean by this is, if they had a blood clot, it would have one too, and if they had a cold, it would even take over the cells of the virus and imitate that as well. Childs would no doubt be warned about sharing food and liquids, however, he takes a drink without questioning it. MacReady then smirks as if he's got him, because he knows the thing wouldn't care about this. If Childs is already a thing, then he wouldn't mind sharing drinks because he's already been infected. Drinks are also a way it could pass on its cells and take over someone else, so it would willingly drink this because it would give it an in to take over MacReady. Just as he takes a drink, the theme tune also kicks in, hinting to us through the score about what MacReady has just realised. Might be a reach, but yeah, look. Now the theme tune itself plays perfectly upon the sense of isolation, as we have a single note playing over and over again rather than a full orchestral theme. Even the note in the score is alone, and it's something that really elevates the soundtrack. Now there's also the fact that Childs doesn't have a visible breath and there's no light in his eyes. On the 4K Blu-ray, there's a commentary with Dean Cundey who explains there's a way to figure out who's human and who isn't. He said, "You'll notice there's always an eye light. We call it a little gleam in the eye of the actor. It gives light. If this light is missing, then it means that the character is a thing, and it is absent in this final scene." However, Carpenter said this was only the case in the blood test scene, so it wouldn't really matter either way for the ending. Honestly, I don't think we'll ever get a clear answer over whether Childs is a thing or not, because knowing is not the point of the film. We are meant to be constantly second guessing this, and it's a reason why the movie is still talked about 40 years later. It's laced with a constant feeling of not knowing what's really going on, and this is seen from the opening all the way to the end. Confusion and paranoia is what makes the movie so great, and it's in almost every aspect of the film. We're not meant to know why the Norwegians are chasing the dog, and the fact they don't speak English is put in to throw us off over what's really going on. However, if you do speak Norwegian, and spoiler alert, because this guy gives away the whole film. The character says, "Get the hell away from that thing. That's not a dog, it's some sort of thing. It's imitating a dog. It isn't real. Get away, you idiots." Now, the fact that the thing disguises itself as a dog is also a genius move for the story. Dogs are of course man's best friend, and this unassuming husky is instantly brought into the group because it's seen as a victim. It's also allowed to lick people without question and pass on its germs, potentially transmitting the thing into others. Because it's an animal, it's also given unrestricted access to the entire compound, so the alien can just walk around until it's eventually put in the kennel. A really cool moment happens when we see Doc stitching up Bennings, and in the background we can catch Clark and the dog. He's bandaging up the dog, but this ends up not being on it later because the thing has an accelerated healing factor. Now, we're going to get into the rest of the movie in just a bit, but if you're enjoying the video, then do the right thing and hit that thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to get assimilated into the rest of the channel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Now, one of the biggest mysteries in the movie in retrospect is who got to the blood. Gary was said to be the only one who had the keys, with Doc and Windows occasionally getting access to this. Both are revealed to be human during the blood test, so who got into the cabinet doesn't really make sense. However, there's a split-second audio cue that lets us know when the keys could have been snatched. Listen closely to this. A huge shout outs to Rob AJ for pointing this out, and if you listen closely, you can hear the keys dropping. It's possible that they were snatched during the confusion, and this would give the thing access to the blood. It's a great detail, and what I love about the movie is how well crafted things are in the intro that show us what the characters are really like. We catch MacReady playing chess against a computer, and it pulls off an impossible move to win. MacReady then tips his drink into the machine to break it, and this is very much foreshadowing the entire plot of the film. The computer very much represents the alien, which cheats and manipulates the game so that it can win. On the other side of this, MacReady is willing to burn it all down just to come out on top. The computer is now f***ed, and had the alien not come in then, I don't know what he would have done for the next couple of months, because he wouldn't be playing any more chess. Now, Gary also breaks through a window in order to shoot the Norwegian. This is quite cowardly, and it shows that though he's the leader, he will hang back and try and keep out of trouble. He does this later on when he hands over the leadership position. We also have Bennings, who rushes in and gets shot, and though he's not actually the first person to become a thing, he is the first one we learn about. The Norwegian also has weird goggles on with tiny eye sockets, making him seem impossible to connect with because we can't see his eyes. This heightens the sense of paranoia because he's someone we know nothing about, who's brandishing a gun and screaming in a foreign language. Now, who gets turned first? We don't know, but we do see a silhouette on the wall with curly hair. This could either be Norris or Palmer, and to be completely honest with you, we're not meant to know who it is. Carpenter actually cast a completely different person for this shadow, who just so happened to have very curly hair. Because of this, we don't know which character it is, and it heightens the paranoia. I love the way the intro plays out, slowly introducing us to the characters, and Carpenter even has a bit of fun with the music cues. As we see the dog making its way through the base, over the top of this we can hear Superstition by Stevie Wonder. Though it's on the nose, it's something I only really noticed when doing an in-depth breakdown on the film because it feels like the kind of song you'd hear on a radio randomly playing in the background. Now, some of the group fracture off, and there's a team that travel to the Norwegian base, which is when the dog thing makes its first move. It purposely waits until people are divided, which is a tactic that we see throughout the film. Now, upon reaching the base, they find a cube-like structure that has been broken out of from the inside. Subliminally, this is meant to be a similar shape to a coffin, and the idea that something has burst out of it is supposed to leave us with a feeling of dread. Ideas that it's a monster, a vampire, or something unknown are hinted to us here. When crafting the film, Carpenter also made a rule that the thing doesn't really have a form. It never appears the same way twice either, and therefore we never really get a true grasp of what it really is. However, amongst its body, we also see something familiar, something we recognize, but this is twisted and malformed into something horrific. After collecting the carcass from the base, the thing then makes its first attack through using the dog. One of the reasons I think that Norris was probably assimilated first is that we see Palmer with Childs, and later on he's cleared as being the creature. If it was the thing, to me, it would have attacked at this point, and therefore I think we can rule out Palmer. Now, if we look at the collar on the silhouette too, it's also similar to the jumper and undershirt that we see Norris wearing throughout. Either way, the dog attack is horrifying, and it shows how useless the guns are against the beast. Instead, they have to burn it with fire because the majority of our weapons just don't work. This is carried out by Childs. Alongside MacReady, they're the only characters that actually manage to kill a thing. Interestingly, they're the only two characters that survive until the end, but whether Childs is... Oh, look, we've been over it. And shout out SoMacPamic on Reddit for pointing out that this scene actually foreshadows the death and events of the film. One dog is shot similar to Clark, and others are absorbed, and some are burnt. Interestingly, 2 dogs escape, and this represents how MacReady and Childs both get away. Maybe he's not a thing then. Anyway, the next day, Blair examines the creature, and it's possible that he gets infected at this point. We see him touching the carcass with a pencil, and then he puts it to his lips, which would be enough for it to potentially infect him. Blair then goes crazy and smashes up the radio room, along with all the transports out of the base. I have seen lots of theories saying that this is potentially applied by the Thing to have Blair removed so it can work on the ship we find at the end. However, I think he's probably assimilated later for a number of reasons. Firstly, we find him studying the creature on his computer alone. This runs through a simulation of how the Thing duplicates itself. If Blair was a Thing, he wouldn't need to know this, and to me, he definitely wouldn't want to pass it on. Now, when they visit his cabin later, we also see that he has a noose hanging up, which he set up to end his own life. This is likely in the case that the Thing came to get him, and therefore I think he was absorbed much later. Either way, Blair puts the idea in MacReady's head that he needs to watch Clark, which ultimately leads to MacReady shooting him. He was never a Thing, but this scene creates a domino effect that leads to an actual person's death. The blood bank sabotage is discovered, and a little detail on Doc is that he has a nose ring. The Thing can't replicate inorganic materials, and this is something we discover in the 2011 film. So yeah, you'd need a time machine to know this, but it's a nice little detail when we revisit the movie. Now, another detail I absolutely love happens right after this when Windows goes to grab the shotgun. The group chase after him too, but you might notice that some members are absent. This is Norris and Palmer, who hang back, and we later see them waiting down the corridor. All the people in this shot are human, and it shows that they've turned on each other, whilst the actual things hang back and let it all play out. Another nice touch here is that the sniper's weapon from the start actually appears in the cabinet where the other firearms are kept. The incident at MacReady's shack happens, and we get the amazing chest scene. This was accomplished using an actual amputee with a mask, and it stands as one of the best practical effects in cinema. Interestingly, Palmer self-snitches during this moment and points out Norris's head. I've always wondered what this was for, and it's possible that the individual cells of the Thing are so centered on their own survival that they'll happily kill others in order to gain trust. It's even possible that the Things don't know they're things, and that the cells inside actually hide out and wait until it's the perfect time to strike. Cut to the blood test scene, and in a nice bit of set dressing, we see a poster behind MacReady of someone showing ID. This says they aren't labelled chum, and this is a nice little nod to how the Thing isn't labelled chump.
See you, chump.
Now, I love the body language in the scene too, and as each character is tested, we see them looking intently at MacReady. This is in the case of every single character who's transfixed by the character carrying out the test. Well, every character except one. Palmer just stares down at the floor whilst his test is being carried out because he already knows the result. He even smirks as if to say, well, this is it, and after the explosion, he puts his plan into place. Although Windows is taken out, I love the sense of relief that extends through this part in which the rest of the cast are all cleared. There's a real sense of alleviation knowing we can trust certain characters again, and this shows just how much paranoia that the movie induces. Typically in horror movies, humans and the quote-unquote group are the people that we feel at ease with. For example, in slasher movies, the times that are the least tense are when the characters are all together because we know there's safety in numbers. It's only when they split up that we feel uneasy, but the Thing is a reverse of that. Even when the characters are in a group, there's still that feeling of tension because we don't know who to trust. They then go to Blair's cabin and discover the ship that he's building underneath it. Slowly he picks them off one by one, and an interesting detail here is that Blair doesn't wear a coat. This is because the Thing doesn't actually mind the temperature, and it was just wearing coats in order to blend in. Now once Blair's defeated, we end with Childs and MacReady potentially sharing a drink, either as friends or enemies. Good game, my guy, which closes out the film. Also Windows was called that because he's always wearing sunglasses. And that's our breakdown, and I hope you enjoyed the trip through one of the best films ever made. I think the Thing will probably still be discussed in another 40 years, and who knows what will be found the more that people watch through it. Obviously, if we missed anything, then make sure you comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film. you want something else to watch, we have a breakdown of all the cool details in Jordan Peele's The Know, which will be linked on screen right now. By the way, thank you for sitting through this. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.